Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's another day, and that surely means another couple $100 thrown into this endless pit that we call Project XJ2 Door. Last time we started looking at some rust starts on the lower body and got a few other things wrapped up. Well, today I'm going to try and deal with the other major rust start that's going to keep me from going forward on this vehicle unless I get it done quick. And that's the bottom of the passenger door. I'm going to try and see what I can do to clean that up and put a filler section in the area that's just too rotten to save. And then I'm going to get under the cowl area and start just pulling apart the front end to find everything I can around that area. And I have a really bad feeling about what's going on with the windshield, but I don't want to look there today. This is going to be enough as it is. So let's get out there and start fixing things. Well, this door sill rust on the passenger side is probably the worst news we've gotten so far. There's some surface breakup all the way along back here that's going to need some cleaning. But right here in particular, you can see it's bubbling up. There's layers separating in there. So from at least here to here probably, I'm gonna have to cut the lip right down to the edge and then maybe fill that back in using a seam sealed filler panel for the time being. If somebody later wants to come along, cut that back out and actually weld in a new lip, they can. Unfortunate, but it is what it is. And it's only on this side. The driver's door is basically clean. So because of the extent of the damage, before I can even go at it with the wire brush, I need to just cut that piece out and see what I'm getting into. I don't want to cut too deep because I'm trying not to cut through the front of the driver's door skin itself. That cut there kind of shows what we're trying to remove. It's where the worst of it seems to be. Oh yeah, that's pretty nasty. Woo, rust dust. But I am seeing clean steel right underneath that, so I think if we can finish cutting that away, we'll be in good shape. Well, I may have to get a shot back out here later, but we'll start by not leaving all that lying around. Hopefully for now, that spot there represents the worst of it. The rest over here, I think we can get away with the surface treatment. Gonna find out. Acid etching is standard procedure for steel preparation since it can strip minor surface corrosion and also convert and encapsulate deep rust. Due to good old-fashioned ignorance, I got myself a bottle of ferric chloride etchant. It does work, very well in fact, and I am told that knife and sword makers absolutely love it. But it leaves behind chloride ions which require neutralization with household materials such as baking soda or cleaning strength ammonia solution. Otherwise, if not fully washed away, those ions can reappear later as rapid paint breakdown and new rust starts. I didn't fully understand that at the time. But fortunately, I did have a need to thoroughly wash the work area afterward, and hopefully I got them all. Okay, right there is interesting. I thought I cut far enough into the door, but I might have to go a little further because the acid is now exposing some more rust. But on later projects, having learned the difference between ferric chloride and phosphoric acid, I switched to working with the latter. It is slower to react, but far more forgiving. It's also an ingredient in the Coca-Cola soft drink recipe.
What?
Which is the main reason people can make those science fair videos where a handful of rusty nails go into a glass of Coke on day 1 and come out on day 2 or 3 looking like new steel.
Shiny.
But since only 5 of you are watching this video for a chemistry lesson, let's move on and see how the door cleanup is progressing. Looks like I missed one little spot right there that definitely needs some attention. Get the whole bottom side here scuffed up ready for collect paint. Next step to get ready for primer, I'm going to use Simple Green as my degreaser. Now we need to paper this off. Okay, we're going to try and put a decent coat of this into all this. Since tedious work moves faster with narration and montages, let's do it again. Using paper, I traced off the door lip cutout as a pattern. The next step was to fabricate an aluminum insert. This may seem hackish, but it does work for low visibility repairs. Years ago, I discovered the beginnings of runaway rot on the inside rear wheel arch lip of a 1998 Camry and used the same technique to fill the gap. We sold the car to friends a while back, and it's still running without a rust restart. Once the filler piece is sized correctly, it's your choice of adhesives, and even JB Weld will hold for a long time, especially if you use the 24-hour formula and clamp properly. But I decided to use a 3M seam sealer for the initial attachment. Panel bond epoxy would have been better, but it cost 2 to 3 times as much. After that, it was a matter of sanding and surface filling a couple times until the lip had been correctly reshaped. Eventually, the full door will get touch-up painting and a fresh clear coat, but for now I left it with a couple quick coats of Duplicolor PBT or PB7 Patriot Blue, which is a spot-on match for the factory color. Now we've been doing a bunch of work to try and keep water from coming into the passenger floor of this XJ. Both front floor pans can be affected. The passenger seems to occur more often, and there's about 6 or 7 reasons, so take your pick to figure out which one you're troubleshooting today. Around the windshield is a very common one. These tend to get rust. It gets in there and then it starts to crack away the polyurethane and then water goes in. And actually on this one it did turn out to be some windshield work. We'll be getting to that a little later, but today we're going to look at a couple others. One of the more infamous lives under this cowl panel. There's an opening right here for the fresh air intake to the cabin. That side's not open, but the actual air intake is on that side. And if you look down in here, you're going to see a little plastic funnel sticking up over there, and the whole area down in here acts like a giant rain gutter. So what prevents water from just flowing down in around that plastic funnel? Foam rubber weather strip that's on the top of the airbox, and over time, of course, that gets old and damaged. All they would have had to do was put a little lip up around, metal lip up in the gutter, and it would have prevented that problem from occurring most of the time, but they didn't. There are a few others under the hood, so let's get that open and look there next. A couple more popular ones are in the corners over here. From the factory, there's a clay wad that's just kind of jammed in there, and that clay wad can gradually work loose. Now, along the main part of the firewall, not such a big deal because that just drains water back into the gutter. But back here in the corners, there's a 3-way union between the upper cowl piece, the firewall, and then the apron. And there's a gap there that clay fills, and if that gap comes open, water goes in that way. Next one, also associated with the airbox, is right here, and is this big block of foam. And already I can see that there's some holes right there from where the previous owner just kind of knocked it out when the replacement of the heater core. So I'm glad the heater core was done. I'm less thrilled that they didn't put some new foam rubber weather strip there, so I might have to fill that. And still another one hiding way down here is this drain hose, condensate drain hose for the airbox. This, when you're running your air conditioning, or if water somehow runs into the airbox, is where the water is going to drain back out. And it comes down here on this frame rail. That sometimes causes rust there. Sometimes people will take an additional piece of tube and just add a little hook to drain it over there, and in which case it hit the control arm, but the control arm is a little bit easier to replace than the frame rail for obvious reasons. Still another one is the seal around the airbox blower right there, because there's another one around there. That's usually only a problem if water is coming down into the hood and running back. And sometimes if you have water running down in the hood and then running back, it's because of this seal here. came out at some point and was never properly replaced. And other than needing to tweak this back up a little bit, this one is installed correctly from some other work we did. Still, one more you will never know about unless you've found it yourself or seen my short video where I covered it, is there's a hole right here which I have since plugged. And I assume that comes with tape over it from the factory because both of the XJs I've now had, it was completely missing. And I assume that's because it dried out and peeled off. So just to recap, windshield seal, weather strip around the passenger air intake under the cowl, the clay balls that were normally in these corners stock, which I've since replaced, this seal right here from the top half of the airbox, a blockage in the condensate drain hose down there, that seal around the fan, and the access holes behind the door switches. Oh, and for a number 8, let's transition to a dramatic night shot and a better shirt, and point out that right about here on the passenger side, there's a grommet that passes through the antenna cable, and that goes straight into the passenger cabin as well. Now, the way it's constructed under there, it's not likely to leak water, but if you've tried everything else and you're still getting some, look there. And let's not forget 9, failing weather seal around either door, and 10, random rust holes leaking water into the cabin. Any one of those, if it is damaged or missing, is a way water can get into your cabin, and it'll usually end up in the floor well, frequently the passenger side, just because there's more things that can go wrong on that side of the vehicle. Thank you, Jeep, for a great design. And thank you, Chrysler, for not solving that problem when you redesigned it in '97.
You're welcome.
Now that I've started taking the cowl apart, there's no going back. In fact, I'm already seeing that the situation under the windshield weather seal is probably much worse than I was hoping. When rust gets under the urethane, any patch, putty, or goo in a tube will only be a temporary fix. It's time to tear down the front end and hopefully find all of it. Oddly enough, once the fenders were removed, it seemed like the caulk on the outer edges and inner corners of the cowl wasn't as dry and crusty as expected. But since this can be repaired more effectively using polyurethane and some kind of former like thin cloth scraps, I went about removing it anyway. And there's the first clue that this caulk was soft because it was not as old as the vehicle. In spite of being an old American Motors design, the 2001 Jeep Cherokee did not use brazing from the factory. This cowl has been replaced. The work looks good enough, and proper brazing will hold up in spot repairs like this. But it's a mystery why the shop didn't use welding kit. This is acid etch primer, and I'm spraying with a makeshift cardboard shield so it doesn't go all over the vehicle. Although judging by the number of scratches and small ping marks I see up on the cowl, I'm probably going to end up painting and maybe even doing a little bit of fill work on that. Project for the future, but for now let's get this sealed up where I was scrubbing off paint and caulk. I could probably shine a flashlight down there and see where the light comes out the side. Huh, look at that. I'm not sure why that clay caulk was even needed on the sides here. In the end, the water just goes in the gutter either way. It's only on the inside corners where there's a risk of it going down into the cabin, but hey, I'm curious. Well, back to the same seam sealer just got through using on the door a day or two ago. And a little tip, it turns out that the solvent that works best with polyurethane is in fact acetone, so if you put a little acetone on a rag, you can wipe this stuff perfectly smooth. Doesn't matter down in these corners though, this is all hidden once we put it back together. And then of course, as with most things on vehicles, if it has a left and a right side, once you get through doing one side, you get to go do the other. I still don't understand what this putty caulk whatchamacallit is. It kind of weirds me out. On Project XJ1, I actually used some scrap denim as filler, if I remember correctly, for these inside corners, but today the holes I found were pretty small, so I just used some cloth wire wrapping tape. Same thing though, it has plenty of surface area for the polyurethane to embed into. Well, this vehicle continues to produce mysteries. Now that I've got the fender off, I am staring at a hole somebody drilled in the windshield washer fluid reservoir. No idea why it's there, but I'm going to try and plug it with a rubber hole plug and a bit of Permatex black. Oopsie. Ah, finally, there it is. That's not the most elegant way of doing it, but I like that better than buying a replacement reservoir. Well, there you have it, and like I said, I got a bad feeling about what I'm going to find under the windshield frame. As you can see, the trim panels on the inside are out. That's coming up shortly also, because there's a lot of work to do in here as well. In the end, is it going to be worth it? Financially, not a chance. But as they like to say, the real reward is all the friends we made along the way who want to ride in an unfinished project vehicle. Okay, well, there's some skill building. But be that as it may, I'm not done yet. I want to see this vehicle looking nice and new, and it's still a long road ahead, but I'm driving. Hope you're coming along. So, thanks for joining me again today, and I hope to see you all in the next one.
Has anyone seen my phone?